Hello, everyone, and
Hi.
welcome back to Adobe Live. Once again, I am your host, Alejandro, and back with me again is Jeff Deibel.
How's it going, guys?
I see you have your Behance screen up. Do you mind going over
Yeah,
some of the
so
work you've done before?
I can walk you through some of the work that I've done in the past. I know there were some conversations yesterday about physical realm, digital, so I thought it'd be fun to share this project that I did called Hello Batter. It was in Milwaukee, and it was a multi-device experience where you played with your phone and a screen played. You were pitching to a batter trying to strike them out. So it was a pretty cool experience that we got to make, and it ended up being at the Milwaukee Brewers Stadium. So pretty cool stuff.
It is, and I'll be honest, I thought it was a cake one in the beginning.
Oh, a cake? Ooh.
Hello, batter.
Oh yes, I would like to eat that cake too.
And hi, everyone, and hi, Paco. I see a lot of people are coming back. Richard, I see Richard back. Hi. So, before we go ahead and dive back into what you were doing before and what you were going over, let's go over the schedule a bit today. Today, early this morning, we had Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Voodoo Val. 9:30, we had Adobe Live Graphic Design with Kel Lauren, which was fantastic. 11:30 was the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge with Sam Anderson. And today you have us both here, Design for Any Screen. And, in about 30 minutes or so, we're going to be having a chat and win, where one person will have the lucky chance of winning 100 Sticker Mule stickers. Die cut Sticker Mule stickers. I know. All you have to do is show up and chat. And about an hour 30 from there, we will be going into a daily creative challenge review and feedback with both Jeff and I. So please, if you have a chance, submit those designs to the Discord under current challenge. And if you would like to know more about it, just hit the little tab at the top right for the challenge in the Behance chat. And finally, without further ado, can you please, I see you have a little presentation.
Yeah, so let's get into it today. We spent a lot of time yesterday with hot takes, so I'm planning today to do a lot more designing, but I wanted to give everyone a recap of who I am. If it's day one for you, it's day two for me, but I don't want you to feel like you're falling behind. So again, I'm Jeff. Nice to meet you. Thanks for all being here. So a quick little recap. The name's Jeffrey Eric Deibel. Profession, I'm an experienced designer or experienced designer. I got some age on me. If you like what I'm doing today, you can find me at a few different places below. Pretty much anywhere with an @ you can find me at Jeff Deibel. And so high level, what I do, I help brands solve business problems with design-driven consumer-first solutions. And so what we're going to be making today is a responsive pizza website. And the project that we're doing, one of my favorite pizza joints in Chicago, Dante's Tavern, is getting a lot of recognition, and now they need a website that matches that. So I'm going to create a responsive site for Chicago's Best Slice. And to summarize, the problem that's going on with their website is it's just the wrong vibe. They got a feel to what they do, but their website does not match that. So yesterday we did a lot of research about what they're looking for, and today we're gonna synthesize that and apply it, and kind of bring the website to not full fruition, but like a good first pass. So day one, we did the research, and I think we nailed that. Then we started in the design direction, but got a little sidetracked. And then we were gonna do mid-level comps, but that became homework for me. And so for today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna design mobile, and then we're gonna design desktop. And a side goal for me is to say meat and potatoes a little less, but I promise nothing.
I say do it all the time.
Okay,
I just
well,
replace every other sentence with meat and potatoes.
Okay, yeah, maybe we
me.
will. So let's do like a recap of the research that we did, and then I'll just take it from there.
Yeah, you could do a quick research recap.
Yeah, a quick research
recap. For those who are just
recap.
turning in. By the way, if you didn't catch us the first day, you can always go back and watch the replays on Adobe Live's YouTube channel.
All right. So as far as research, when talking with George, the owner, there were a few things that popped out. 80s punk, Dante's Inferno, tangents, and competitors. Tangents are just like a bucket for me to let my mind wander and throw other things into the mix. So we went through and I just curated a bunch of assets that looked like the punk scene, and then gathered some stuff around Dante's, and really just wanted to create a nice large pool of information to pull from when I'm designing. So pulled out all of this stuff, did a little bit of a competitor analysis, and felt like, I have things at a pretty good place, so I can start getting in there and designing. So yesterday we talked about all of this stuff and kind of like pulled out a few things that we liked. Some of the things that we liked were that like grittiness. We talked typefaces. We found some black letter typefaces that looked nice. We found a meat and potatoes font. We found a lot of things that were working for us. So I just synthesized all of that under this new page called the mise en place. So I think it's very important as a designer to have a practice good mise en place. The more stuff you have prepared for yourself when you start designing, the more it gives you the room to actually design. So you're not hunting for elements. You're not like looking for the photography. It's all there, and you can really just get into the flow. So I like to have like, if this were a cooking show, having all the ingredients out on the table. So like when I start, I have everything there. I'm not like going to the cabinet looking for the red pepper flakes. So yeah, so mise en place. This is like a mini design system, I would say, but nothing here is set in stone. So I kind of broke it out into a few groups: colors, typography, photography, and then elements is just kind of like a catch-all for all those like little nuanced things that we had talked about yesterday, like bringing in elements of the physical space into the digital realm.
Do you ever find yourself, so when you do design this, do you normally start designing this as you're building out a product, or do you normally go and design this once you have a pretty good groove of what you're gonna be doing?
I usually start with something kind of like, I'm always filtering down into Dante's Inferno. We're going down into the circles. And I'm always trying to like get closer to the end design as I go. So I start big and just kind of bring it in down like the pizza slice. Yesterday we picked out some colors. So I picked out some primary colors, and then I wanted to have a secondary color palette, which I pulled from their logo. I'm not sure I'm gonna use all of this stuff, but I wanted to have it so I'm not having a million different colors when I design. So it's just a way for me to keep my design a little bit cleaner, so I don't have 8 shades of red that are all just about the same. So I think it's useful. I start, like, it depends on the time that the project has. Sometimes, like, if it's a quick turn, you just gotta go and do it. But when you have a little bit more time and it's a bigger project, I think it's very useful to get set up correctly.
Right.
So we got colors here. We got that off black that is almost black but not black. We were talking about bringing in that photo copy, like muted, not full black that you get from like a cheap print.
It's very Archer.
Yeah, exactly. And then some accent colors, the red. We talked about the red maybe being too prominent for a background. And then just like a lighter gray and a white. And then I just left a few boxes over here in case I need to add some stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't want to box myself in.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah,
that was a good pun.
Yeah, I'm already working on those puns today. I get paid by the pun, so you're gonna get a lot of them. And then for secondary colors, I pulled all of these out of the logo, the original logo that was sent, and then coming out of all of the typography conversations that we had yesterday, I like writing out what I think the design does well. So it just helps it get out of my head so I can see it. So Timmins is the headline typeface that I picked, and I just write this stuff. It's kind of like what you would see in a brand guideline, but I find like I'm guiding myself through this. And in case I forget, I might have a good idea, but I'm getting older, the brain's going, so I want to have it written down. So for headings, I got this Timmins, and I just put a few notes that what I was thinking about it, like use it big and bold, this font demands attention, like, so I'm already designing with intent. So I know like when I use this, what intent can I get with this? My intent is to grab attention with this headline font and nothing else. I'm not going to write long form copy in this. And so I just like put in there, with great power comes great responsibility, use it sparingly. And the numbers are aces, so let's use them. They look great. So maybe with the menu items, the dollar amounts, they can we can use those and find like a second use for the typeface.
When you create this, do you make one large artboard, or do you tend to make a bunch of smaller ones for each one of these?
Oh, I just do it on one big artboard, and sometimes, honestly, I don't even do it on an artboard. I do it on like the pasteboard or whatever. Yeah, living outside of the box, like you gotta get out there, man. You gotta like just let the brain go. So I don't worry about. So really, what it comes down to is like I don't want to get in my brain's way of thinking. So if that means for you, putting them all in small artboards so it's organized and that makes you feel good inside, then by all means do it. For me, I know for a fact that that gets me into the weeds of the design and I start missing the bigger picture. So I know like I try to start big picture and then get to the small picture, but I love the details and I know that about myself. So I have to like hack my way through it, and by keeping it as one big artboard and one long flowing thing, it's free. Like the pixels are free, so
let them roam.
Let them roam, yeah. When in Rome, let them roam. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach it, and then I just think like, okay, I start with like sizing. Like these aren't final sizes, but it shows the intent of the different headings. So like this is much bigger and you're kind of seeing this nice cascade down of importance, because that's like a good gut check for me before I get into those nitty gritty details on like the actual pixel size of each font for the actual execution. I can see like, is there enough variation here? Am I getting enough color variation? So like if you squint your eyes a little bit, heading 1 is black, and then heading 2 is like a dark gray, and then you're getting to the heading 3 where it's getting a little bit lighter. So like it's already starting to create this difference between each typeface. So for Broken Script, it's modern, moderate black letter. I love that it's kind of bringing in that Dante's Inferno vibe without suffering from legibility. It's probably one of the more legible black letter typefaces. But because it's black letter, you still have to be careful of how to use it. And in this typeface, you should never use it all caps. It just doesn't read as well. At least that's my opinion. It's not really a hot take, but given that it also competed with the Timmins heading, I wanted to make sure that there was a clear differentiation between the two. So what else did I say? I said avoid the numbers. The numbers just don't fit. Like they kind of feel like an afterthought, which is fine. Like I'm not coming here for the numbers. I'm coming here for the metal headlines, and I'm getting that, so I'm going to use what's great about the typeface for what I need it for and leave the rest, which is kind of my approach to everything. Take what works and leave the rest. Like,
yeah. One thing I've also noticed on these types is the character spacing as it goes down towards heading 3, they expand a bit too.
Right. So I am starting to think of like how I'm actually going to use each typeface. And for ampersandus, we were talking about this yesterday of using it as like a subheading. And as a subheading, like that wide letter space just looks good. I mean, I'm a sucker for it. So who doesn't love a tracked out eyebrow? Nobody. Hot take right there. If you disagree, let me know in the comments.
Just be full of comments.
Yeah, just like let me know. Like, who doesn't like a nice all caps letter spaced headline? I mean, hot take. Right?
Is it though?
I mean, it's not a hot
know.
take. I mean, that's just like good design. So I was thinking, like, with this one, I just use it in conjunction with an accent color. Like maybe it's a red pop, maybe it's an orange pop, to really separate between two things, or be like a divider of sections that you need to separate things, but you also maybe don't want another big heading because you don't want the page to just feel overwhelming. And I just think it's a legible font. I'm giving it an A+ for legibility. It still gives a nod to the calligraphic roots, and it pairs nicely with the black letter heading we have above. So it kind of like keeps that theme, but is different enough where it's not competing. And that's what I'm always looking for with my typefaces. I'm trying to make sure that, do these compete with each other or do they work together? Right. And like either they need to be different or they need to be or the same. And like if they're the same, I always ask myself, do I need to? Can I just have one?
So for your body, how did you complement the titles with the font you chose?
For the body, because we're going very, very expressive with the headline typefaces, I need the body to be pulled back a lot more and kind of be the meat and potatoes of the design system. So you can see in my notes here, it's the meat and potatoes of this operation. If you're following along at home, I believe that's mention number 5 or 6 of meat and potatoes. Make that 7.
Is that spicy jalapeno bacon ipsum?
Yeah. Oh, right. This is actually a really great place for lorem ipsum, and I went with meat ipsum, so enjoy that.
Is that a real thing? Meat ipsum? Really?
Yeah, no, I just searched for, I actually searched for meat and potato ipsum. It does not exist, so world, you could make it happen.
Or meatless ipsum.
There was like, I'm sure there was like a vegan option.
Veggie ipsum?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. There's an option for everything when it comes to the ipsums.
Richard's asking if we're going to do a beard off today.
Yeah, we still haven't figured out what it is though. So please enlighten us and let us know what the beard off should be, and we will do our best to oblige the request.
Unless it's shaving it. I'm not shaving
I'm not shaving my beard either. It'll grow back before I get done with one side. So
took me 3 months.
Oh, it did?
No, it didn't.
No. This is like 2 weeks. Maybe. But anyway, so like I like to think of this as the straight man. So it's the straight man in this divine comedy. Shout out Dante's Inferno. And I think like it provides an artisanal touch. I don't know why I wrote that. Maybe that was something else. So I don't know if I copied and pasted right here. Look at that. Seeing the errors of my way, I was going fast. So disregard the one, fast and loose. It's only for me, so I'm airing my dirty laundry here. And then something I wanted to call out with the body, like I was thinking of like ways to, because we're getting into a lot of typefaces here, like thinking about from a dev standpoint, how many typefaces we want to load on a page. Are there ways to like use Kovacs, Sans, in addition with something else that's already loaded to be like the bold typeface? Because each one of those typefaces is another load until like variable fonts become a more prominent thing on the web. So I thought like, because we already have ampersandus, what if we made the bold, if we were gonna call something out, the ampersandus, and I thought that like kind of worked really nice. The X height was a little bit higher, so I had to drop it down the size of the font, but I thought it was like a nice little call out and a little bit of a space saver. I mean, we're looking at like 6 fonts here, so this is a project of love, not a project of rationality. And as I always...
It's great that you're thinking about the dev as well when you're building and designing this out.
Right, and you always got to be thinking about like what the end medium is, because there's so many times like you can get really deep into Photoshop and put all the glitz and glam on a font, but then you can't use it, and then somebody wants to change the headline and it's not a functional thing anymore. So it's always trying to find that balance of like, somebody's gonna have to update it, the content will change, so how do we create something unique and interesting, but also make it scalable?
Real quick, Ali is asking what Chat and Win is, and Chat and Win is in about 10 minutes where you can have a chance to win 10 die cut stickers.
Yeah.
And just be around and we'll ask you a question, just chat.
Yeah. It's that simple.
It's that simple.
Maybe we'll ask for hot takes today. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good one.
So with Ampersandus, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. It works well for block quotes. So I'm starting to like, I don't know where else I'm gonna use this, but I'm thinking like maybe if there's like a call out of like Dante's is the best pizza in Chicago, hot take, quote Jeff Deibel. Maybe this is a nice variation, because the broken script up here is too much for too long. This would be too much for it, but maybe the Kovac Sands isn't enough of a call out. It recedes too much into the background. So maybe this is like a nice in between. So I'm thinking about like what I'm gonna use. I don't know if we're gonna have quotes on the site, but I'm just kind of like going through and thinking about all of those things that I saw on other websites and like how do I use these typefaces.
How are you combining all of these types with the photography you have and the mobile design that you're working towards?
I don't know. We're gonna find that out.
Okay.
I have ideas, and I did a little bit of homework, and I got it going. But yeah, at this point I'm thinking of ideas. I'm creating like a palette that I can pull from, and then I'm gonna start pulling from it and see if my ideas work or if I have to go back to the drawing board. And then I picked out some of the photography that we were looking at yesterday. So these are kind of like my selects, and I just broke it out for restaurants and food just so I have like something to pull from. And then we had talked about a few different things yesterday, elements-wise, that we saw in like the research. Some of the things, like I saw this like drippy type, and I thought like, oh, maybe that could be cheese that melts, like when you hover over a button, maybe like the hover state, like the cheese melts down because the place is hot. So I made an element like that. And then if we look at the photography here, there's just like little elements that were in here that I really liked, and I pulled some of that out. And then we had talked about the Dante's logo being really great big, but how does that translate into a web experience at a smaller size? Because we don't want like the first full screen of the Dante's page to just be a logo. We want to get into the meat and potatoes.
I knew that was coming. I was wondering what you were going to say.
Oh gosh, oh man. I never say that, but when a camera gets put on my face, it's just meat and potatoes, meat and potatoes, meat and
That's
potatoes.
the only thing it goes to.
Yeah.
It's just like, what's the last thing I used?
Meat and potatoes. All right, we're getting that counter up. So I just like quickly like took. I wanted to pull an element from the historic logo, but maybe like give it like a modern spin. So I took the D out of it, and then just used Dante's in the Timmins typeface. And I thought like, oh, that already feels like a nice top header. I don't know if George is going to be on board for that. That's going to be a conversation we will have, and just kind of like talk through like the pros and cons of it. And if this isn't the approach, we'll try something else. So then I just like pulled the colors out just to test to see like, do all of those secondary colors work? And I thought it makes like a nice metal rainbow, I guess. A metal rainbow, yeah.
It's the most metal rainbow
ever, yeah, like all
the colors. The end of the rainbow.
If you get to the end of the rainbow, it's all metal.
It's just an album of Metallica CDs.
Yeah. And then I just pulled out, again with like the mise en place, I pulled out the D in different colors. I don't actually have a vector version of it, so I just use the new select tool in Photoshop, which is amazing.
Oh man, so nice.
I don't know how many times how much of my life has been burnt cutting people out of photos, and now it's like you click and drag and it's like boop, here you go.
It's like magic.
It is magic. So kudos to Adobe on that one. It makes my life really easy. And then like here's that like texture that I was talking about up here. We had kind of explored it yesterday real fast and loose, but I made this in a repeat grid, which I'm going to show you what I did there, like making a repeating pattern with a repeat grid. I was pretty proud of myself. Shout out to myself. And then here's kind of what we had yesterday of like the menu and kind of like seeing how these things work, which is really what I pulled from when I was doing this. Like I took that and kind of just like pulled it all out and like here it is in its glory. And I feel like I have a pretty good like grasp of the system. So now let's like get in and start designing some stuff.
Start rolling out some dough.
Yeah. I'm mad that you came up with that. Like it was like
It's okay
right
to
there
be
and I
jealous
did do
and
it.
envious of
But
my puns. It's
mad's the
great.
wrong word. I'm impressed and jealous.
It's okay.
Yeah. Dang it. Oh man, that's so good. So last night I went home and kind of like put this design system to a little bit of use. I really wanted to.
Hey, that's a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's a gorgeous one to open towards in terms of like when you go into a mobile website and see it.
right. And it's a pizza shop. Like, it's not rocket science here. If you have a beautiful photo of the product, put the beautiful photo of the product up front and center. Like that slice of pizza is gonna do way more than a long-winded sentence about them. But I just wanted to come out of the gate swinging. Like they got a little bit of attitude in like that punk rock way, and like I was thinking like, how would a punk rock poster get your attention? So two things that I like here. It's an arrow pointing down. Visually, it's just like telling you like keep scrolling down. So like right away you got these visual cues. And the other thing is like I brought in some like texture to like roughen up the edges. I don't know if it's final, but I'm kind of liking where it's going.
I'm digging it because it adds that texture that you saw earlier in the albums of those punk rock bands and posters too.
Right, and I had tried this in black and white and really dirtied it up, and I felt like, you know what, like that's taking it too far. It was losing something. Like the photo itself, like if this were just like a pizza by the slice and not family oriented, maybe I would have gone down that path a little bit more, but because the practical side of my brain said, hey, hold up, this is still a business and you need to provide a solution that's gonna drive sales, because that's what we're doing. We want people in this restaurant so I can eat this pizza forever, because it's the best pizza in Chicago. Not a hot take. So, given that, I was like, all right, how can I play around with the typefaces? And, you know, the reader said it's the best slice in Chicago. Why not just pff, boom. That's all you
Right in
need
the
to know.
middle.
Right there. Order now. So, like, a couple things I'm thinking about is, like, you got the people who are going to order it for delivery, and you have the people who are going to come in. If they're coming to order, like, let's just get them right to what they want to do. Always thinking about like, hey guys, I'm here and I want to do something, so I'm just going to present that moment and give it to them. So
And it's great how, like you said earlier too, that photo is of a pizza, but it's kind of pointing down, leading you down to the exact next thing that someone will probably do.
right.
Is either order and get transferred to like the menu.
And like, I always like to do a gut check. Okay, here's the hot take. Hot take for the moment. The fold does not exist. All right, I'm just gonna take a pause right there and let that like set in.
So for readers outside of the U.S. or even New York, what do you mean by that?
The fold. Okay, so it's an antiquated term from the days of newspapers. above the fold is the area that you see when it's set at the newsstand. So they fold the newspaper, and what's on top of it is above the fold. So the above the fold story was always what was the most prominent. So they would always say above the fold.
In.
All right.
So what? So I mean, that was a hot take. But how about we find out what are your hot takes?
Yeah, I want more hot takes. It's like
somebody said Hawaiian pizza is
garbage, yeah.
Which I don't agree with.
I don't agree with either. I just think like pineapples have it hard. Like.
Yeah. Well, but first we'll be right back, and then we'll come back to that hot take. And we're back.
So,
back to what we were saying earlier, how about we find out what are your hot takes? So, chat away to win 100 die-cut stickers.
And if you're not sure what a hot take is, it's just make something up. Put a line in the sand and stick to it. It's a great conversation starter at a party, too. It really gets past the how's the weather. All right.
Oh, pickles are the best, cucumbers are the worst.
Ooh, but they're of the same cloth.
But completely made different.
Yeah, that's true. Hot take from Alexa Smith. The fold is not real, but business owners need to prioritizes. I can read.
Star Wars or The Mandalorian?
Ooh.
The Mandalorian.
I have not watched The Mandalorian
Oh, you should
yet,
check it out.
But I've seen the memes, and they're pretty great.
Baby Yoda's so cute.
Yeah, Baby Yoda.
I love The Clash. I'm a little surprised I didn't see The Clash on the albums.
Oh, that was a miss on my part. I just, didn't get there. Hot take, hairstyles come and go. Be adventurous. I don't think I can argue with that.
That's just a good wisdom.
Yeah.
If the fold is really work in printing.
Hot take there, Lindsay. Yeah.
Annie, Endless One. Congratulations, Annie. You are the winner for the 100 die-cut stickers.
My sister Christy just chimed in, pickles are the world's worst food. Well, and I know her personally. I have to agree. But sticker mule.
Okay. That threw me in for a loop. If you didn't win, you can still get some sticker mule stickers using this coupon, this promo code 10 for $1.
Yeah.
And going back in.
All right. So we were talking about the fold, making hot takes, and somebody in the stream said, prioritization. And yes, we talked a little bit about this yesterday of, interpreting what is said by the client in using your design brain. It must, be translated. And when people say above the fold, they say, what they're saying is, this is important to us. So it's finding out what is important. And The problem with above the fold that sometimes you run into with a client is everything's important. But if everything's important, nothing is important. So that's always a challenge. You have to pick one thing and make it bigger because everything is related. And if everything's the same size, it's all the same size. So something has to be bigger, something has to be smaller. And for this instance, really what we want to do is come out swinging and say we're the best slice. And secondary to that is an order now. So we're hitting two things and showcasing a beautiful photo of the pizza. So I think we're getting a lot of work done with a little bit of real estate. And then I always like to think of the website experience as a long form scroll. And as you go, you get a little bit more detail. But you should get the big pieces first. What are people coming there for? And then if they're interested, give them a little bit more. And slowly unravel it. I like to think of the website as a concierge. If you say just showcasing what would you like to talk about as the navigation, and the landing page is kind of their upfront spiel. And that's about as far as I'm going to take that metaphor.
I was curious how much further you
I don't know, but they'll ask you oh, what kind of pizza do you like? Oh, are you interested in this? Oh, do you like beer? They have this beer.
You're trying to guide
them.
You're slowly guiding them to their final product.
Right. You don't want to give them too much information up front. They can't make
It's
they can't.
overwhelming for some.
Yeah, you
because
can't
then
be
you
like,
don't know
what
to get.
toppings do you want on your pizza before they know what if they want pizza. Yeah, or like you can't get too far into the details until you have like big picture, and then get into the.
Yeah, doing something simple goes a long way a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times.
And I think there's a confidence to it. Like as a designer, we're always like trying to like showcase our design, and sometimes it's like knowing when to pull back and when to not. I think like something that I struggled with in my younger years, in my youth, was making the design clear that it had been designed, as opposed to like letting the design get out of the way and be the presentation of information. So this photo didn't need more. I started with like grunge and textures and all of that. I was like, you know what, pull back. I need to know when to not. And this was a moment where I think the photo itself does a lot more. And picking a good typeface, like your raw ingredients do so much. Like if you're cooking with like a rotten banana, the food's gonna taste rotten. So like you gotta have the freshest, best ingredients. And so I picked typefaces that I know will work really well for me. And so I always spend a lot of time for that. And bless all the type designers out there. They really make my job a lot easier.
There's some amazing types out there.
Yeah. So especially now, we're like in a type renaissance of there's so many people doing so many cool things.
But going back a little bit though to the, scaling back and, taking a step back and not overloading it and overwhelming the design just comes with a lot of experience and practice.
Right.
And I do want to, let the chat know or encourage the chat to ask you any questions.
Yeah.
Because you are a wealth of knowledge and experience.
I've seen things. I've seen a lot of things, and I will talk design all day. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your questions. All right, so let's just like slide down the page a little bit more. So we have today's features, and I know they always have a vegan slice of the day and a beer of the month. So I'm thinking like maybe there's something here that we can do. And I'm always like, I love this preview mode of like checking like, so I'm at like an iPhone 6, 7, 8 size. So I'm getting a sense of like how much screen real estate it's taking up. Like right here is like the first thing I thought was like, oh, maybe that's too big. But on the phone, it's nice. So I just kind of like comp some things out to see how they feel. I know I'm gonna need the menu, and now you can kind of see that design system that I started building. Like we got Timmins for the top, and then we got that nice letter spaced as like a section divider, and then we let the broken script be the hero of the section, like highlighting this is the dish item. And I pulled in those numbers from Timmins, and I think they work really nicely.
They look great. And,
yeah.
They just, you could immediately tell what they are. It's easy to distinguish each number, and they're not boring.
No, they're not. Like you can be functional and not be boring. Like they're not mutually exclusive, and that's what I'm really trying to do. I want this to be buttoned up and professional, but still have that edge to it.
A little bit of a personality.
Yeah,
It's not
like,
too loud.
It's not too loud, but you definitely get a vibe from this.
Yeah.
So I started doing the website, but I have some room left to do. So I was going to walk you guys through how to do that. And then down here, just like because I haven't gotten to it yet, I know that I'm going to want a tap list. I'm going to want a location. And I thought it'd be interesting to call out like a family friendly. We got that photo of
The games,
yeah. And I thought like, what if we put something like bring the whole family with a photo of that, and just kind of like as a call out at the end as like a nice wrap up of like, if you were concerned, here's just a little nudge to come in and check it out. So
a little bit of a trusting thing.
Yeah.
To make sure that, because this is a family established, restaurant.
Right.
There is a sense of trust you have to instill.
Yeah. Like it's commitment to come into a restaurant and say, I'm gonna spend my hard-earned money here. And if you haven't tried a restaurant before, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, and you don't want to waste that money. So the other thing I did was I quickly okay, menu navigation is a great way of knowing what needs to be on the website. So because we're big and loud and a punk rock, I just wanted to let the type do what it does. And I think menu, tap list, I'm thinking if I'm coming here, what do I want to know? I want to know what food they have. They're a tavern, so I want to know what beer is on their tap list. I want to know their hours. Are they open? So something I was thinking about here is just the context of do they even need to click to understand we're given real-time information right away. So I thought this call out of today, we're open from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. So you don't even have to click through to understand, but then if you click through, you get the full breadth of information. But why not? I'm assuming they're at this website today because they're looking about coming there today. And
real quick, Justin has a question. What's your take when scoping a project out by hour versus project estimate from your freelance days?
That's a good question. So it depends. I like to scope it out by days of what's my daily rate, but then that's what I use to kind of figure out how many days it's going to take doing it. Because when you get into the hours, you start losing the sense. It's really hard to say how many hours it's going to take. It's going to take 40 hours, 180 hours. That feels like a lot of time. But then if you say it's going to take 3 weeks, that feels like no time. So I like to think of it in day units and week units. So I typically know a project's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. I'm going to build it out like that. And I always give a little bit of a discount for a longer project because it's insured income as opposed to doing a one-off thing. So if somebody needs me for an hour, that's different than if they need me for 40 hours. 40 hours is putting food on my table. 1 hour is buying me a snack. So there's a cost and a setup time for everything. So you want to think about everything that goes into it. It's not just the design. It's the meetings. It's the management. It's the emails back and forth. It's the edits. It's the re-edits. It's the finals. And then if you're working with the developer, it's working with the developer to ensure that the design works right. So you got to think about all of that stuff.
Redlining out all the designs.
So whatever you think it's going to take you, double that. And you're going to probably want to add a few more hours to it or a few more days to it from there. So yeah.
That's great advice. Thanks for the question, Justin. And I think Richard mentioned that looks like the Die Hard type.
Oh yeah, it's kind of got that vibe. So again, it's in the right genre of things. We're really big, bold intensity, which I think
it has that nice vibe that you're going for.
Yeah, so we mean business, and so I broke it out: menu, tap list, hours, location. I could add an about us section or a social, but I just wanted to keep it kind of tight. This is their first website. We can always flesh it out further, but sometimes about us, we're a pizza joint. Come in and taste it. How much history do you need? And what I always think about what the value add is going to be for every additional section. And are people I just think am I reading about every restaurant's history when I go to that restaurant? No, I'm scrolling to that menu, looking at it, seeing if the hours are open and checking price. Those are the core things. So I'm focused on that right now. But everybody likes a little bit of heritage, and I feel there's a rich history here, but maybe we'll get to that in V2, but we want to get something up. We've been delayed in getting this up. It's been a year since the restaurant opened, and now it's time to have something better, and we can always extend it. So to that point, I'm always thinking about how does this extend further? What would happen right now? this is one viewport. And does it become like a scroll thing? Do I go to 2 columns? Do I have to change like font choices, like sizes? But for right now, I think like this could just be an easy scroll as long as there's an affordance to scroll down. So now that I have all of this, let's get to designing a little bit. So one thing that I saw from my research, let's see if I have it up here, was this like nice UI element. And I thought, oh, maybe I could use something like this to call out the featured beers and the featured.
It's a bit of a side scrolling kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do that. So right now,
here's a hot take. Do you think Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
ooh, I mean, it's the only Christmas movie I really want to watch. So yeah, well, yes, it is a Christmas movie because it happens during the Christmas time.
He wears a Santa hat.
And he wears a hat. I mean,
hat.
you can't argue with a Santa hat, can you?
But in that regard, then what's is Gremlins one?
Ooh.
Hot take. Let me know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, these are cutting questions that...
Answer the deep question. These are hard-hitting questions, people.
They are. They are very much the hardest-hitting questions.
You know, I want to know is what are the chat's favorite holiday movies to
Ooh,
watch?
that's a good question. It's that time. I'll tell you right now, my all-time favorite holiday movie is Elf.
Really?
Yep.
That's a good one.
I am such a sucker for Will Ferrell, and I'm not ashamed.
I don't think anyone would probably be ashamed of that. He's great.
Hot take, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. If you enjoy it and it doesn't harm anyone else, have at it. Hot take.
I think that's just a take. But hey,
That's just a take.
That's just a take.
Hot take on the take.
Hot take on a take. Just enjoy it. I really love is A Muppet Christmas Carol. My brother and I watch it every year for holidays.
I like that.
Alexa says Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a good one. What else is there? There are a lot of great ones. You know, Claus came out. Claus is a great holiday one.
Ooh.
On Netflix.
I have not watched that, but the animation looks beautiful.
Animation is great, and it's a great family, movie to watch together. It's the opposite of punk, though.
Yeah, it's not punk, but you know what? Like, punk is an attitude. It's not an execution. Like, it's hot take. I don't know. I'm just saying things. So, what I'm doing now, today's featured, we're going to have a slice of the day. So I'm thinking I'm going to bring in this nice little eyebrow here, if I can copy on it. I have set up some of my colors in my asset folder, but I haven't gone to character styles yet because I didn't want to do that until I got to a place. It felt like I wasn't ready to commit. And I know you can change the components, but it's like a mental thing for me, so I just know myself. But we're gonna put slice of the day here, and let's see. I think we bring in the black letter. So I'm trying to think like about like the systems that I'm building. So now I know like I'm using the broken script for names of items.
Okay.
So like if you abstract that out, like subject line, like if it were an email, that's the subject line, and this is the copy inside of it. So a slice of the day is not chicken wings. It's a vegan slice of the day.
It could be vegan chicken wings.
Ooh, there are
On
vegan
pizza.
chicken wings on the pizza, or vegan meatball. Let's make it a vegan meatball. Let's use better grammar. Vegan slice of the day, and we're gonna call it. You were saying vegan meatballs.
We could do meatless meatballs.
Meatless meatballs. I like it.
And you know what? If anybody has a better thing to say there, let us know.
Yes, 23. We're gonna run into some
Sizing issues.
Sizing issues. Ooh, that line length is a little little intense.
I think this is also pretty important to see that, these are things you'll be running into when you're building this out.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about this yesterday of always designing with real content or like close to real, because so to that point, let me use where was it? So here we had like this, and I was really digging that. I thought that like looked nice, but when I started actually designing, it didn't work because each menu item wasn't gonna have like a little eyebrow worthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was putting design in there just for the sake of doing design. And those are the moments that you want to catch yourself and be like, I serve the higher master, and that higher master is communication. And it was just creating clutter. So I pulled back, but kind of took that element, and I feel like I got like nice color on the page. We got big, we got dividers, we got white, we have shades of gray, and then I pulled in some secondary colors there. So always
it's all very
thinking,
seamless too.
Yeah,
going down, and the red really stands out against the grays and the whites, so
Mm-hmm.
it does catch your attention. You immediately know you're on appetizers.
Yep. So I'm thinking, like, because I don't know what information is going to get put in here, center aligned is going to be a little bit more friendly to me, but I'm liking the left aligned. Let's see. If I take this down, let's see. When do we start losing? Yeah, it's starting to get hard to read.
You can always preview it too.
Yeah,
see how it looks.
Good call. It's not bad.
That's not bad.
It's on the verge of like where I'd want to push it, but I like the character that it's bringing. Ooh. I like the character that it's bringing, so I think like I rather have it a little bit larger and on two lines than trying to like squeeze it all onto one. So we're looking at we still got like a lot of room here, so I can extend this a little bit wider, maybe make it a little bit bigger. So
are you planning on just having the title of it and not like any subtitled ingredients? Similar to what you're doing in
so
Strategist.
we do need, and that's a good thing, like what other information are we gonna need here? Just gonna go ahead and group all of this.
Meg is asking if Will Ferrell's a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
I think he is, but in Elf, he's more of a spaghetti and
Oh yeah, what do you put in this?
maple syrup.
Maple
you know,
syrup,
like you really want to get
spaghetti.
to the spaghetti and maple syrup of the
This design.
Yeah. So we're gonna. There's a lot of spaghetti. Oh, that's nice. So here.
It's already looking amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm feeling good about it. So now we're gonna bring in this spaghetti and
You want to go back
maple
to meat and potatoes,
syrup.
don't
I
you?
do, but now out of respect for Mick, I'm gonna switch it up.
What did he put in there? Was it spaghetti?
It was spaghetti
and maple syrup.
and maple syrup.
It's been a
Spaghetti?
long time since I've seen Elf.
Oh, it's a go-to for me. My all-time favorite scene is when he goes into the coffee shop that says "Best Coffee Ever" and just yells "Congratulations!" It tickles me.
We've all been to places like that too. They advertise the best coffee ever.
It's rarely true. This slice is all vegan and all flavor. So I like to just write some copy. It doesn't have to be what it is, but like maybe we put some, let's see, there's vegan meatballs on the menu, right? Oh, served with marinara.
Oh, cheese curds sound delicious.
Cheese curd pizza. This slice is all vegan and all flavor. Our meatless meatballs exceed expectations.
So while you're doing that, I would love to know where people are tuning in from. Because
Yeah.
we're here in the city and the stuff. But people listening from work, people jogging while listening to us. Who knows? I would love to know where you guys are tuning in from, as well as city or country.
So now I'm thinking like, this is kind of like a cool element. It's got like a nice system going for it. I'm wondering, do I want to call out, like, do we want to push again on the order now, or do we just want to leave it as is? And I'm kind of in between on that. So I'd love to have like the insight from the collective, and if anybody has thoughts on that, let me know while I adding in other bits. So we have vegan slice. Just gonna group this all together, and then I was thinking we would have, I'm just gonna pull it off the artboard.
Shout out to everybody responding: Leo, Ariana, Kay, Cervantes.
Of them. Because it's Chicago, we'll do Fistmas, which is a revolution. Say Revolution Brewing.
And this is a local.
Yeah,
brewery.
Revolution. I'm just shouting out to all of the places I eat at frequently. Revolution makes great beer. It's they're in the Logan Square area, and their brew menu is also very good. So I've brunched there a lot. When you have kids, you brunch. You don't go out to dinner very much, especially when they're very, very young. So I've done a lot of brunches at Revolution, and maybe a few lunches and a dinner or two.
A dinner.
A dinner, because I'm eating on like the what do they call it? The early bird special.
The blue plate special.
Yeah.
Going for the blue plate special.
Because I'll tell you what, a 3-year-old at a restaurant after 5 o'clock is playing it chancy. So they sour. They're kind of like the gremlins, like
Really?
after a certain time, except you don't give them water after like 6 o'clock because they'll wet the bed and turn into a monster. So, sorry, Quentin, you've been called out. You've been put on blast.
As he's watching the stream.
Yeah,
Design, right?
yeah, he's watching it at his daycare
start
right
early.
now. Just watching it. Yeah, he knows what he did.
Just like
I love
Ricky.
him. Just like Ricky. Yeah, Ricky, good callback. So I'm thinking, like, do we want the prices on these things? Yeah, I think I blew it on that one. Where does it go? It works well for a line length. I think I'm just going to keep it consistent, but I'm in the wrong group. And I'll just have to be sure, like, when I should make this a paragraph, that, like, the bounds of it still gives a little bit of room. So I'm thinking about, like, what if this changes? And I'm just going to have this, like, everything should be aligned to something. So I got a nice left align over here. Well, sort of.
So what spacing do you normally do? Do you do some kind of numerical spacing between all the elements?
Yeah, so right now I'm just eyeballing it. But in a next pass, I will kind of like get more into a vertical rhythm. So I'm pretty good at this point in my career of like seeing that rhythm, but what I always like to do is do a gut check and make sure everything's got a baseline that it's sitting on. With the web, that can be a little bit tricky, but I always like to deliver my files in a way that I know, like, visually everything makes sense. So, like, typically, like, I'll have, like, a baseline of, depending on the fonts, like, 8 pixels. So I think of, like, every 8 pixels as a unit of space. So if the space between two things is 8, it would be 8, 12. Like, it should all be divisible by 8 or 4. So say, like, so you could have 4, 8, 12, 16, and then all of these spaces are all interweave together, and like you're creating this underlying structure that isn't seen by the consumer by any means, but it's felt. Like, it just feels buttoned up, and there's intent behind everything you're doing. So if you're ever struggling with your design, just ask yourself, first take a walk, get out of the dark room that you're in, And
calling them out in the dark room.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a brightly lit
maybe
room.
it's a bright, or get out of the fluorescence lights. I don't know your situation, but usually when I'm most stressed, I'm pulling like a late night and I have the lights off and I'm working in dark mode.
Hunched
I'm
over like
hunched
this.
over like the gremlin. And sometimes it's like you just need to get up, walk around, give your mind a moment to reset, and then ask yourself, after you've done all of that, just ask yourself, what's the intent behind the thing that I'm trying to do? And like, does this have intent? And that's like a good like baseline of like, if there's not intent, then maybe something's missing. And then it's like, what is that intent? And that usually helps me get out of my head.
Yeah,
So,
I think it is important that going, like saying we were saying earlier, getting up, moving around a little bit, going for a walk, just get out a little to just clear your mind and then come back to it. And things look a little bit more clear.
Right.
Sometimes, not always, but.
Yeah, and like, so back to the spacing question, I always think of everything in units. Like, this whole block is one big unit. So everything in it needs to feel like it belongs together, but then there's subunits. There's this, and then there's all of this type. So I want to make sure that this block feels like it's all contained, and even if we like space this out, like you can still see that this all visually is related. So I'm creating all of those relationships, I'm a matchmaker here, and then I have this bigger block. So for spacing, like the more space you put between things, the less likely that they are related. The other thing, like, so if you want, like, so say you have the space in here, and then I'm gonna have another box like here. The menu is a great instance of, like, I have the same amount of space, like 25, well, let's say 28, rough, it'll be polished, but it's like 28 pixels in between each thing. So now I'm getting to here and I want like the next thing, I doubled that. Mm-hmm. So it still feels like the same rhythm and flow.
But there's a visual difference between
break. Yeah.
Right.
And by giving like doubling that space, it's enough space that says like these are all related, but it's far enough apart where it's a new section. Mm-hmm. Because if I had this like, well, with like the color also creates a visual break, but I just like always use like 2 to 3 things to divide things within a section, and then bigger things space.
It gives things room to breathe as well.
And that's like I'm presenting this in a way that like this place is trustworthy, but it's also punk rock. So it's a little bit of both.
And yes, please don't forget to submit your daily design creative challenges to the Discord under the current challenge. Because in about 30 minutes, we're going to be going over those and providing some feedback. So we would love to see them. And just take a look at what you guys have created. It's always interesting to see what they made.
It is. I'm excited. I really enjoyed that yesterday.
Yeah, we had some really great designs yesterday. We had
it's so fun to see what everyone's doing.
Fleur,
which was really cool.
A fragrance. It was a fragrance. Perfume company site. It was pretty cool.
So I'm thinking about like the higher being in design is communication. Like, what else do I need to communicate here? And for a beer, I always think like the ABV is important, because I need to know like how high of octane is this. So now I'm like creating
bring some Mad Max into this.
Yeah.
How much octane is this?
Yeah, exactly. So I have this eyebrow, and now I'm bringing in another eyebrow, which like, okay, now we're like getting so down to smaller sizes. So I thought like, I don't want to bring in a new typeface. I want to use what we already have. So I'm going back to my spaghettis and maple syrup, which is the Kovic San. But to give it like a new vibe, I'm pulling in like a secondary color. And now we're getting like a lot of like color here that feels nice. Like, it recedes, but it's also important. Yeah. But it doesn't get in the way of what's here.
That subheading will be there for people who are actively looking for it, but you can gloss over if you don't.
Exactly. Like I'm giving the people options, man. They want to know what they want to know, and I'm just like letting it happen as we go. So that's starting to feel nice, like the scroll. So I have 2 of these.
Richard's asking if it says Fistmas. It does say Fistmas.
It does say Fistmas. So I'm going to the internet, which is dangerous, right?
And Lindsay, I believe they have replays of those on YouTube. If not, someone should be able to point that out. There will be.
Right. I can find it. So they have a really nice website.
This is a beautiful website. And this is one of the ones that you've used for your research.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm a huge fan. Oh, I guess the right alcohol volume. So they have a lot more information here, which makes sense for the Revolution Brewery because they're an expert in beer. But because we're a tap room that has a lot of different beer, this is a little too much. And our tap list is going to be changing over time. But I'm just going to steal their copy just for...
You meant to say borrow.
Borrow. Yeah, sorry, borrow. The correct term is borrow. Use accordingly. But just so you know, it features notes of bread, ginger, and orange peel. Okay.
Sounds delicious.
It sounds.
I'm a fan of a red ale.
It is one of my favorite winter beers. Let's see. So I want to keep these pretty tight. I want to make sure that they know. Like, I want to create the affordance that there's something more.
Right. And so you normally put little, like, teaser.
Yeah, like it's like hinting there. What else should we put in there? So we have like a vegan. Like, I like the power of 3. I also don't want to put too much content just for the sake of content, but I feel like we could have a third thing that they call
salad of the day.
Salad of the day. Sure, let's do that.
Make it a little healthy.
Yeah, for the people. I mean, you can't just eat pizza every day. Well, I mean, you could.
You could. I would not recommend it.
Healthy. No, we don't want to do that. Salad of the week. We've done day.
Someone made a Star Wars pun.
Ooh, I like.
Can you tell he's just ray tracing?
All right, guys. All right, I'm loving it.
I would love to hear more puns, so please throw them at us. Or you have a really good dad joke.
All right, so here's a pun. Shai Cobb.
Oh, did you come up with that on the fly?
No,
you should have just lied and be like, yeah.
I did. Like, the magic, like, guys, the magic's here. Like, just watch it happen. So there is no ABV on the salad.
That's unfortunate.
It is. Okay. We're gonna make this guy 8. We're gonna just give it a different price just to. Oh, what I want to do. One thing that I really appreciate about Adobe XD is when you change the alignment, the type doesn't jump around the page.
Oh yeah.
So that's really nice. And I know that this is always going to be right aligned, so I'm creating these columns, and now I can, add in what I. 18 is a little
very
much.
Expensive.
It's a very expensive salad, but you're paying for the pun. This salad has all the Chicago fixins. What's on a Chicago salad?
So it's just a cup, right?
It's just a Cobb, but
egg,
ham.
I love to cook, by the way. I'm a big fan of cooking home, so I should know this. Lettuce.
We'll call them lettuce, and cracked
bacon.
Bacon.
So it's not a very healthy salad.
Well, I mean, for Chicago, like egg. There's an egg on everything. There's bacon on everything.
Is there?
Yeah, always everything. Like, so I want to try using this guy again as like a plus up. Oh.
You know what's really cool too is that you can use a repeating grid on these.
Oh, I could have done that. That would have been a really good use case of it.
Yeah, sorry, I totally just.
Yeah,
I
mean, but so like all of those features are really great, but And like as you're fleshing it out, it makes life so much easier. And that reminds me, I have a repeat grid pattern that I want to make.
Okay.
But I wasn't sure what I was putting and if there was going to be a lot of duplication. But man, I should have like started off better. Where were you? Where were you
Making
on
puns.
that one? Making puns, yeah, which, you know, is more important.
Priorities. People.
Priorities.
Priorities.
Let's do like add
More bacon.
more bacon and more egg for 2. I don't know. Maybe there's something that needs to be there.
Or like
Just seeing
meatless
how that
bacon
looks.
and
Like,
egg.
I wonder. Like, no, we don't want it before. You gotta present the information in a way that makes sense. All right. So now we got 3 of these guys. Let's. Because they're all off. I'm just going to pull them all off the artboard so I can see what I'm doing. And you can see as I like get into my design, I'm slowly turning into that gremlin.
Getting
The
right
eyes
into
are
the
really
pixels,
going. Yeah.
Getting really close to the screen.
Gotta get really in there.
Hunching over.
This is how the magic happens. All right.
Through pain.
Through pain. Die hard or go
With a
hard or die
vengeance.
trying. I don't know, something like
It's
that.
was it? No, it's Live Free or Die Hard. There's the other ones or something. No, I don't remember. Someone will know, and someone's gonna call us out on it.
Okay. So for the tap one, maybe I go back to borrowing, and I'm just gonna do this. Gonna copy this screenshot, and we'd probably maybe like ideally what I'm thinking. You know what? I'm not gonna do that. I am thinking about how this is gonna be executed, and we have this really great photo of the tap list.
So to be able to use the same tab,
Yeah.
the same photo, just replace the content.
Right, and so there was the easy way, and I'm taking the harder way of going about it. Or maybe like we got this photo too of like beer of the month. But that's gonna take a lot of Photoshop work, but I like that. Where's that tab? Here we go. Maybe
That looks nice.
This is a really nice photo, and maybe they don't want to update it every time. Like maybe they want to be a little bit more on the fly, and every time you add dynamic content to a website, somebody's got to manage that. So knowing that like the beer of the month might change, and they might not have a photographer on staff for every week or every month to get that photo, like getting these beautiful photos is not cheap. Like this is somebody who is an expert in their craft. So that sets the mood without, like I see it and I understand like, oh, because like even if they don't like Fistmas, now we're saying like, look at all these great beers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so like you're in good hands. And
It also makes it easier on mom and pop shops if
right.
like you were saying earlier, they can't have a photographer all the time.
Yeah, and they're
they
doing
need
this.
something simple to update.
They're doing this all on their own. They don't have like super huge budget for everything. So I'm gonna pull in this salad, and maybe it's not the final photo, but we're always trying to get closer to the end product, right? Always trying to get closer. So it might not be perfect, but it's showing the intent. I'm going to say that a lot today. It's all about showing the intent of what you're trying to do. So now like I look at it and like from like you zoom out and you see pizza, beer, salad. So it's covering off on those bases. I'm feeling good about that. So I'm gonna pull it onto the artboard and
I love how the salad's at the very end.
yeah, well, I mean, come on. We're about the pizza here.
And the beer,
And the beer, yeah.
which looks delicious. I wonder why they didn't.
No, I didn't group them. I should group them. Let's group it. And I want to try something out on the fly in the prototype mode. like they just added this feature where you can
scroll on the top right.
Is it scroll? Transition. Here it is. Drag. Oh, I have to make another artboard for it.
Oh.
But I'm not going to do that yet because I don't have the rest of this. But I was thinking like we can do like the drag feature. So.
It's a convention. People are getting more and more
Yeah,
habit
and
of too.
it's really cool. But I want to like get all of the things on the board so we have like a good feeling about like the page itself. So, you know what? I feel like we've established the system now, right?
Yeah,
like
we got
like a good feel to things. So, I know that these things we were talking about doing, and we're talking about bringing in all of the slices, just because for the sake of time and showcasing everything else, I'm gonna just duplicate this artboard. I'm just gonna duplicate both of them. I like to like and move it over. So now I'm thinking in a different mode. I'm gonna just take out what we're not gonna cover today because I've established this pattern that you're looking at here. We'll just get rid of that so we kind of have a sense of like what the sections are. And I'm thinking like for these different things like tap list, location, that maybe the stuff opens up. Like maybe it's kind of like mirroring what's happening over here and opening up. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put like a plus sign and make it much larger as placeholder. So I know like I'm thinking about like future, this is where we're going with this, but maybe not right now. We're gonna do some more fun bits of XD. And I'm gonna do, let's see. Yeah.
So Voodoo Val is asking, how do you deal with art block?
Art block. What do you mean? Is that like, are you meaning like when you just like can't get there?
I think that's what she's asking.
If I had the answers for that,
You never deal with art block.
I never deal with it. I think it's a natural part of the creative experience. Like strap in. There's always going to be that fear of like, what if this is the last idea I ever have, or I can't figure this out. And I would say like, when in doubt, go back to the basics. The core principles of the design system is very important. Like the core principles work on everything. And then just ask yourself, like, am I designing with intent? Walk out of the room, the dark or the fluorescent light. I don't know your business, but walk out, get outside. Like give your mind the space to wander. And sometimes you can get out of it. And I just always like to start like asking questions to myself, like leave the design mode and go into critique mode. And when you switch into critique mode, start thinking of it like if it weren't my design. So step out of your brain and start critiquing it. And sometimes that will reveal the solution, or the solution will reveal itself.
Very Star Wars.
I know. So that's kind of what I do. And then like, don't bang your head against the wall. Physical pain does not help. Just trust yourself and look yourself in the mirror and be like, I can do this. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna give myself 15 minutes to relax, and then I'm gonna come back to it. Like you can't force yourself into it, because when you start getting stressed and like second guessing yourself, you're not gonna make good design decisions. So give yourself room. Be easy on yourself. I will tell you this: you are your worst critic. The worst boss I ever had was me, because I demand the most out of me, more so than anyone else. So just know that. Maybe that's not the same for everyone, but like we're hard on ourselves because we see everything. And don't sweat
yourself
it.
time.
Just keep. Whenever you're struggling, go back to the fundamentals. That's like what That's what I'm sorry. I've been noted. Reveal itself to you. The solution will. Master Jeff Duh. Okay, now I have to do it. Now I have to do it in the voice.
Are you going to do it?
I think I have to. Jen, you forced my hand. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Reveal.
Okay,
man, this is derailing quickly.
Yes, no.
Reveal itself, you. Nope,
That
can't
didn't
do
work
it.
out, so-
I'm moving on.
Let's just leave it to
I got some
Frank
art block. With I didn't warm up my voice today for that kind of voice work, so my
the worst
apologies.
Yoda.
That was. I'm pretty sure I staked a claim on it. Yeah. So now, the one thing I'm realizing we're missing here, we need a footer. So I'm just gonna, which is a great place to use the repeat grid. So I took these two little guys, which you can see are the pluses that I quickly made from right here. So I kind of like took this as inspiration and made a more vector version of it. So I'm gonna add in a footer here of...
Also love about how this entire mobile design is that it looks very easy to transition to a web design.
Yes.
A web page.
Yeah, and I'm always thinking about that. I actually know how to code. I coded my own website myself because I had worked with enough developers not paying attention to all of the little details. And if you want something done right, sometimes you got to do it yourself.
You just made a lot of developers
I'm angry.
very
Yeah,
angry.
I'm coming at you. You're on notice. Hot take. I know, like they're just not trained to see certain things. So I learned it so I could communicate with them in the most effective way. And for me, like knowing CSS is like a superpower because I can open up developer tools and be like, instead of saying, hey, the font size is wrong, I can say like, right now it's 2M, I want it to be 1.5M, I want it bigger. Or like, hey, that's 30 pixels, let's make it 36 pixels. And I can like design it in the web browser because it looks different. Like the second you get into the web browser, the fonts are being rendered differently. So something that worked in your design might not work in the real environment. So to go back to that whole freelance conversation about hours, there's a lot of work left to do of reviewing after you get the designs done. Because once it starts getting built out and you're working with the developer, there should be like a very collaborative thing. They're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that might seem easy, but it's really difficult. And they're focused on that, and you're focused on the design. So any way that you can communicate with them better is great. So I just think like it was very useful for me. And when I was freelancing, people would be like, "Oh, great, you designed a website. Who's gonna develop it?" And all I saw was like ching, 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 going into somebody else's pocket. So
Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah,
It's
like
just diving right in.
my take on it is always like, just say yes to things. You can figure it out. Learning is just part of it, and if you're comfortable being a beginner, you will get to that expert level eventually. And the internet, people, like all of it's out there. Just go on YouTube and start searching things. Watch like these videos. Like you can get a lot of information a lot quicker than you used to. You don't even have to go to a library and read a book. Like you can watch somebody talk about it. So, and then just do more and more stuff. And the more you know, the more you can use it. And like I've done a lot of different things in my career. And the thing that always surprises me is like something I did 10 years ago that I thought there's no way this is going to relate to anything else ended up being very important to my career. Of like 10 years from now, I'm using that again. Yeah, so rant
advice.
over.
That was a rant?
Rant. I don't know if it's a rant. I don't know what it is.
That was the nicest rant.
Nicest rant. Yeah, I'm really just a nice guy. That's
And
me
humble,
being
too.
angry. Sorry, I got a little heated there. My apologies. Okay, so let's make a repeat grid. I want to have this pattern. I think that's like a good size. Maybe I want it like a little bit smaller. And I'm gonna just try, let's just go and click the repeat grid and pull it out and see what happens. I love this. This just is so simple, but now, like, okay. Cut that. Look at that. Oh, don't want to rotate it, but look at that. Like, now I have this repeating background, and, oh, God, that just...
So
not
nice.
having to actually do it just makes my life so incredibly easy. Like,
That's what I love about Adobe XD. Some of these
yeah.
like little features they have that make things just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And it compiles.
It really adds up. Like, I don't have to open...
And 5 minutes, people. 5 more minutes for the deadline to submit your designs for feedback. We could do today's and yesterday's as well. And going back, I think someone had a question about procrastination and how do you keep yourself from procrastinating?
Oh, man.
That's a tough one.
That's
think
not
everyone
my
suffers.
strong suit. I'm going to... I have a warm-up. I have to, like, warm up to get into it. Because, like,
Do you have
for
a
me...
ritual?
No, I don't. I should. I mean, but I don't. Things that, let's see.
Like for me, I tend to put like like I would say, okay, just open it up first, like small tasks. Like sit down on the desk, okay, open up Adobe XD or Illustrator, all right, get the artboard going up, or at least just small little pieces that just keep compounding till you start.
Yeah,
getting the job
for
done.
me, it's a blank artboard. I know the second I put something on the page, and then I keep putting things on the page, I can get past it. Like that's what gets me going. Because I think the biggest thing for me is, like, I know, like, once I start, like, I get very intense might not be the right word, but focused. And once I get focused, like, I lose track of all time. So it takes a
Yeah.
moment for me to, like, all right, am I gonna do this? Like, am I committing to this? Is this the time? Because I'm shutting everything else out for a moment. I can't, like, design a little bit, go have a coffee break, do something else. I need, like, very focused time. So I get something on the page and start working, then all of a sudden 4 hours go by.
Once that ball gets
Yeah,
rolling,
and
oftentimes
it's
you're like,
just like, if
I'm already
I'm-
on a roll. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, so for me, it's like getting something on the page. Once I have something on the page, I can get going. All right, so I was gonna put a footer in here. Just grab this again, put it down here.
I just want to mention I love the way you did with the logo.
Oh, thank you. Right now, like, I'm wondering if I want to bring in a different color for the D to just separate it from Dante's and Tavern, because I saw in the comments earlier about, like, it reads Dante's D Tavern, and I get that. So it's like maybe I need, like, a little bit something else there, but that's like V2 for me. But I'm gonna just Dante's Tavern. Speaking of mise en place,
So how long did it take you to code?
to code, like learn to code.
Learn to code.
I use, like, the internet, and just, like, the way I approached it was I have something that I need to learn how to do. Like, I want piece by piece. Yeah, like, because I found if I don't have, like, a task at hand, I'm not just gonna learn it in, like, the abstract. Like, that doesn't work for me, and I know that about myself. So I really was like, okay, I need a header image. How do I make something align? How do I do this? How do I make different fonts? How do I bold something? And just, like, piece by piece, I was building it together, but I was building towards something, which was helpful for me. But it took, like, I took it on a project by project basis. So I always got the projects done, and over time I got much faster at it. But I would say, like, there was a lot of pulling hair the first, like, 6 months, but most of like I do a lot of like, I was good at math, so a lot of it like came pretty naturally to me. So it
was just like, it took time.
It took time. And, I mean, I wasn't like, I didn't sit down and say like, I'm going to learn how to code. Like, I was like, I need a website, and to make a website, I need to put code. So I went, dear Google, how do I make a website? And how do I fully realize like the design I made? Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot along the way of like things that are easily done in code and things that are not done in code. But it was just like cutting teeth and working hard.
All right, heard it here. So we're about at the end of the design segment for now.
Yeah.
And we're going to be moving on to design feedback. So we hopefully have here some designs that you guys submitted. This isn't the current one, so that was a cool Kylo Ren one.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. Let's see. Let's do this one by Aaron John.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
this. So Daily Creative Challenge. This is the Mental Wellness one. This was from yesterday. So first, let's see.
Starting with a 4.
So how we might empower, meditate, brainstorm solutions.
Interesting. Okay. So is that the setup?
I think this is like the setup or like the research portion that he's thinking of drag them into change.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
So brainstorm solution for these digital post-its. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so this is it.
Oh, I like that color.
I do too. It's very tranquil.
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice, smart color choice. Like, it's a wellness. You want it to be cool, calm colors. So I really like that.
Chill.
Chill. Yeah. So what are we looking at? So we got resistance training, roller routine.
Roller routine.
You know.
And that's kind of cool. The microphone, we listen to you.
Yeah. I'd want a copywriter to rewrite that to sound less like we're listening, but I think it's a really cool feature.
It's a very Succession joke.
Yeah. we are watching you. Okay, so yeah.
Cool. I mean, I think overall, I love the colors that they're using. I think maybe if I had a bit more information in the beginning of what I'm supposed to do, but also B, what this is, it would help me.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with that too. I think like the design itself is nice. If this is not about tranquility, this seems like challenges. I was gonna say that the headline typeface is a little bit mechanical, which kind of is counter.
This?
Yeah, the head, like where it says like week 1, week 2, like it feels like a little bit more mechanical, and I'd want it to be a little bit more organic, but it seems like everything else is like strength training and like more intensity, so I'm cool with that. I think that's nice. Yeah, I think it's laid out really nicely. The only thing I'd say is like those icons on the left rail are creating a little bit of tension because they're hugging the corner. So I would like just center those, and I think you got yourself a really, really nice, clean design. Like I know that I can scroll the information, I can quickly look at it, but I can also dive in deeper. So I think there's been a lot of thought put into that. I like the little rounded corners. The photography's nice. I could not do that resistance pose, whatever that is. Like the floating plank is what I'll call it.
You don't see there's actually a wire hanging from.
There's a wire. It's like a Mission Impossible thing. That's cool.
He's trying to steal that little yoga mat.
Yeah. That's cool.
Going on from there. Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it on the head with all that. So let's try another one. Thank you, by the way, for sharing.
Cool.
Let's do Santagi's.
All right, Santaji. Let's see.
Let's see. Open original. There we go. Okay, that's too much.
All right. All right. How might we facilitate mobile anxiety management for high schoolers? I see how this is working now. Okay. So we're going to remove anxiety for high school kids.
Remove Instagram.
Yeah. Remove Instagram, yeah. That scares me. The social media. I didn't have to grow up with that.
Oh, man. Everything's permanent now.
Yeah, everything's permanent. People can bully you at school and away from school, which I think is so crazy. Like,
that's a whole
nother. Yeah, that's a
okay.
deep thread that I'm pulling at. But okay, I like the muted palette here. That's useful. It feels serene. The only thing I'd say is like with your buttons where it says "great," another answer. The type's a little hard to read on that, so I'd maybe boost the contrast between the colors there. I like the secondary nav, switching between tasks and journal. I feel like you've created a lot of structure to the site with all of these different tabs, but left it pretty open. Yeah, I think this is nice.
There we go.
Yeah, I think like the pink buttons with the dark type is just a little hard to read. You have to squint a little bit more. So I'd just be conscious of people who might not have as good of eyesight. They might not be able to read that. So maybe it's bolding the typeface and.
That brings up an excellent point about accessibility when designing, and even thinking about colors. Color blindness is a big thing.
Yeah.
People sometimes forget about. I like the colors, but I do, like you were saying earlier, is that I wish there was larger contrast. Because right now, I'm looking at it, my eyes just kind of glaze over at first glance. Oops. At first glance. So there's nothing quite standing out to me or like leading me to do what's next.
Right. Yeah. It's very one color. So like maybe it's making the article titles a little bit darker, and instead of going with the pink for the subcopy, maybe bringing in like a grayer version of that, a little bit darker, just so there's some more variety, so that I can bounce and see like, okay, here, do I want to read more? Yeah, because all of the type is a little bit receding into the background. And I think like with something like this, you want to make sure that it's easily readable. I understand the intent behind it, which is great. Like it's very calming, but maybe just think about like that contrast and legibility. But this is really great.
Yeah, I think this is a great start. This is really nice. Let's see. Thought record, okay. Examples.
Yeah. What's on your mind? What do you feel?
I really like this.
Yeah, this is really nice.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Santaji. I'm not gonna-
Santaji.
Thank you, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Let's go to the next thing. So this is a first submission by Lap.
Well, welcome to the game. All right, social wellness. How might we encourage joyful outdoor activities for pet owners? Oh.
I would hope going outside with your pet is enjoyable.
Yeah.
If it's not.
It depends on what kind of pet you have, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Let's scroll
dig
down.
in. Yeah.
I like these little emojis.
Tinder Dog is an app that encourages dog owners to meet with their dogs for joyful outdoor activities.
Don't you hate it when you're like, I want to go out and read a book at the park, but then you ask your dog if they want to, they're like, no.
They're
too busy on their
happens
Tinder
all the
dogs.
time to me.
I
You know,
know.
like my dog is just like
He's just swiping.
yeah, he's just like come on, we gotta, we're in this together, and I'm glad that there's now an app for that. I love this Tinder
agree.
Dog. Is it a swipe or a wag? Like,
That's good. That's good. I don't know.
I
They
mean,
don't have
I
opposable
wanna
thumbs,
pull-
so they're just like,
yeah, it's more of like a whoop. That's the sound effect.
woof.
Woof.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
All right.
Write a feedback of all you places you've been to with your animal and give ideas to other pet owners. Cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Like having like nice walk, like what are some good walking paths? What trees
ideas.
smell the best? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
cool.
Let's go down.
Let's see the magic happen.
Oh, okay. So this is all concept research based stuff. Okay.
Okay, so this is cool. Like I think you have something here. I would love to see like where it goes next and how that comes out. There's something the whole like Tinder just like swiping left or right, like it's a fun way to say I like something, don't like something. So I think it's a cool interaction, and bringing it into like your dog or meeting up at a dog park is kind of cool.
I think it is kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have like little play dates with your dog.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of possibilities, and I think like this is such a like great brainstorm for getting to a new useful app.
Yeah, it's great. Like when you're brainstorming, it's cool to just throw all the ideas out and just like still like filter things as you go. Let's move on. Oh, I think he.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay, cool. Request granted. Cool.
Okay.
All right. 20 miles.
So I think as a wireframe, this is great.
Yeah. I get what's going on because I read what was happening before, but now like I'm trying to think of it like as a user who's coming to it for the first time. Maybe this isn't the landing screen, but I don't know what's happening. Like we haven't established like at least like having like the logo up top or something that like lets you know where you are in the program or in the app, just so you have like a little bit more clarity on what's happening. And I would like to see as this like evolves, having more fun with like the dog walk and using like an icon instead of just like a blue dot, maybe using like a picture of a dog or a cute illustration, like ways to like really bring it to life and give it a personality, because
this is definitely rife, like ready for like a personality.
Yeah.
A dog walking
like
Tinder app.
Walk your dog with friends. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think like you got a nice like as far as like the layout goes, the information is in good hierarchy. Right away I look at it and I know I'm looking at a map, and I know that like that's the most important piece on the page. And then I get all of the information about it, and then we got that nice nav bar at the bottom close to the thumb where I can cycle through things. The only thing I would say is like you have the menu bar up in the top right corner, which is actually the hardest place to reach with a one-handed thing. And I'm just wondering maybe that we just bring that down to the navigation, so you just have like all of the nav in one section. Because I'm not necessarily sure what would pop up if I click that menu bar versus what's below.
Okay, that's great advice. So I think I had a request by Tim. Let's see if we can find Tim. Oh, here he goes.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Request granted.
We're like genies.
So there's a question in the thread about responsive web design of you have to design mobile first. And
I don't think that's always the case.
No. You just have to think about both. They work in tandem. You can go either way. A lot of times it's a lot easier to take a mobile to desktop than to bring it down the other way. But as long as you're thinking about the two in tandem, you can design where you do your best thinking.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of times where I've gone in to design something. I've designed the web portion first, but I did always have those
Like
ideas, like a card for, like you were showing earlier, for the products, essentially.
Yeah.
And that always translates fairly well to a mobile.
right, and like the design of like the pizza slice of the day and the other one, like I know on like desktop, those three can be presented at the same time.
Yes.
And they'll fit in a grid. So I'm always thinking about the intersections between the two, but there's no right or wrong way to do it. If you're newer to design, I would definitely suggest starting with the mobile, because it is a little bit easier to expand out to desktop than it is to take the desktop to mobile.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, it's good to practice. If it's a concept project, it's good to practice both, going
Yeah.
from one way to the other to get you in the...
right. The more you do it, the more, like, I feel like if you just think mobile, everything becomes one column, and maybe you don't get to as interesting of designs. Whereas if you do desktop first, you have a little bit more room to, like, showcase the information differently. But so there's just ways to... There's several ways to do it.
Yeah. So, by Tim.
All right.
Serene.
How we might entice personable emotion tracking for high schoolers. Okay.
I read that as motion tracking originally.
Motion tracking. Oh, we are watching you. Okay. Reflect on your emotions as explained with your own voice. Interesting. What's on your mind? Negative, positive. I like that that's simple. Like, I don't, like, what's on your mind? And then you say it, and then you have to do that, like, high level. Is this positive or negative? I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it really does make you stop for a second to reflect on the moment. Because
And it's leading you. It's not saying, like, just reflect. It's, like, giving you a little bit of, like, a track to follow. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
I
it's
always
giving you
think,
an
like,
action.
guiding. Like, it's guiding. It's like that concierge concept that I was talking about earlier of, like, you're bringing them into the funnel and making it easier to make the decisions. So that's really cool. I like the blue color. That's nice. I like that the positive guy is dancing. That's pretty cool. Like, he's getting jiggy with it.
Whenever I'm happy, I'm always dancing.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, dance parties are a thing.
I'm curious to know, though, if this is a button or if they're asking us to use...
Yeah,
these.
that's a good question.
So that's one thing I'm kind of not sure on. And I'd be hesitant to select something because of this.
Yeah, because reflect on your previous events seems like a more, like, not the core action. The core action is choosing what's on your mind and recording that. So I would want to bring that up in the feature prominence. I would almost expect that button at the bottom to be the record your answer. Okay, all right, now I'm seeing how that works. That's nice. Experience, record, reflect.
So it looks like that button turns into a tab where you write things out. I'm assuming. I think Tim's on, so you could correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is I like how much space you're giving everything.
Yeah.
It feels like there is one task to be done here, and you're letting that be the intent of the design. So I really like that. Instead of trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink in there, you're really focused. And I think, like, a nice focused app is really, really useful. And then I like the bird's eye view that you have in the reflect section. I think there's some, like, little bits of information architecture that can still be thought out, and, like, with button copy of, like, being very clear about it. Oh, look at this. Let's view project. Oh,
Wait, let's go back.
how do we get into the... Oh, that's... I feel like we were in a prototype for a second.
For a second there.
Oh, here we go.
Why don't we try that real quick?
Oh, nice little animations.
Okay.
So, I think we're positive today.
Let's try... Should we go positive first?
Yeah, let's go positive. Let's see what happens. Ooh, that's a cool animation. Nice.
I liked it,
Yeah, like it brings you in. I'm focused. Let's record something. And then you're giving, I love that you're giving, like, the out of, like, maybe you're somewhere where you can't record your voice and share your most inner feelings. Like, you're in the middle of a meeting and your boss is chewing you out, and maybe you can't be talking to your app about it.
I don't
you
do
want
that.
it.
I do that all the time. You're chewing me out, like, okay, I'm going to record something real quick. You can keep yelling.
I wouldn't take that advice.
I
As your
wouldn't either.
attorneys, I disagree with that. But it's really nice to, like, think of, like, the different context and providing both, but still focused on the main core action of recording. So let's record something.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. And then you name it and save the note. I almost don't think I need it named. Like, I would like to use the information of what the context around when you did it. Like the app can know like what time it is, what day of the week it is, and maybe you just have that like positive, like the positive scale of like how positive do you feel. So it's like there's a little bit richer information of between positive, negative. So it's like positive, super positive, positive, like you know.
That brings a really good, interesting point. This could also be used a bit like a heat map.
Right. Yeah.
You know, over the course of like say 30 days, the person keeps coming back daily to record something. You can kind of track that emotional heat map over that month and see trends that are developing based off of that. So it's kind of neat. Let's see. Save note. Saved.
Oh, cool.
Okay, cool.
Well done on the animations. Like definitely using the tool to really give the developer a good sense of like what's intended. The major piece of feedback is that reflect on previous events is taking up too much prominence. Like maybe you put that up at the top and in the corner. So like thinking about the context of it, like I actually have to take more of an action to do it, which makes it less likely that you're accidentally going to press that as opposed to the core intent.
Yeah, so it looks like reflect on previous events brings up the previous recordings you've put up.
And this would be a great thing to like get some real user research and see how people use it.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of coming in from the standpoint that I'm going to come in and do what's on my mind right now, as opposed to wanting to reflect. But that would be a great thing to like start asking the users, see how they use the app, and if they are coming back regularly to reflect and like to have a sense of like, okay, here's where I am today. Maybe it does need to be down at the bottom. But I think like there's just some things, and maybe it's like the shadow, like removing the shadow, because right now it's like the shadow's pushing it up a layer. But yeah, I think like this is really interesting, and like you have a very good MVP of what it is, and then it's kind of just seeing like how do people use it and how do you make it better.
You brought up a really interesting point, a really great point in usability testing.
Yeah.
How many, as someone starting, how many users would you recommend to test with to start developing?
That's a heated question. I think like you can be quick and dirty, but
quick dirty, let's just say quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty, like 8 people is like a good starting place. Like if you see 8 people do it, you probably have a pretty good sense of how people are using it. But here is the way I see it. It's not a one and done thing. Like it doesn't stop. You should always be studying and understanding how the users are using your app and how it evolves over time. Yes, there's analytics and you can see how many people and all of that kind of information, but kind of just having some understanding of how people use it and having the designer watch the people use it is very enlightening as a designer of like, oh, you see their struggles that you might not capture in data, but you can see it visually. And it might change the way you might see something that you didn't think was coming off incorrectly. And then you have something, it's just very illuminating. And I would encourage people to get as many people in front of their apps as possible, especially at those early stages. But 8's like a good starting place. Like 8's a lot of people to find.
It is.
To hover over their shoulder and watch them.
Okay, great. So we have 2 minutes left. We could probably go into one very quickly. Let's see, 2 minutes. Okay, so that's all we have for now. But that was great feedback.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody for joining us today and sending us their designs for us to give them feedback. I know it's tough. I know it's hard. It's a little scary.
Yeah. It's a very vulnerable place.
It is.
And it's something that you get comfortable with over time, but I think you learn so much from just hearing how people view your work is like user research. Like think of it as user research and you're doing the research, and don't take it personally. Like there's ways to give feedback and not give feedback, but for the most part, just like remove the hate. Don't let the haters get you down, and think about like always try to be like, what can I take from this to make the design better? That is what I always ask myself, even when the feedback comes in ways that are not the best ways. Like if somebody says like, oh, you know, that color's stupid. Like that's not helpful feedback.
That's the worst feedback.
It's the worst feedback ever. But designer me is like, okay, I hate this person and their feedback, but what are they really saying? And then I put my Sherlock Holmes cap on and think like, well, maybe it's because the legibility. And then I check that. Okay, it's not the legibility. Maybe it's just it's too prominent. Maybe it's it's messing with the hierarchy. And I start using that to kind of unravel what's going on and kind of get past the absolutely unfortunate feedback that is not useful.
Great. Well, that's fabulous advice. And thank you again, Jeff, for joining us here on Adobe Live, and everybody else out in the chat and Behance streaming world. Thank you for joining us, and see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care, guys.
I can only give you